Aloha, and welcome to another in our series of A Better Day. I'm State Senator Sam Slom, and I hope that for the next half hour you'll join us, and we'll go over some of the current issues in Hawaii. We've got a very special guest coming up. We're going to talk about housing, real estate, the homeless, and all the other things that you want to hear about. But first, let me tell you, gosh, can you believe it? Here we are in December already, the end of the year. We're getting ready for holidays and all of that, and the New Year's. This has been a quick year. They always used to tell you, as you get older, the time goes by faster. I think the time has gone by faster no matter what your age is. But this year, particularly, a lot of things have happened. But during the past month, we had a number of things happen too. We had the Public Utilities Commission start their listening sessions, and now they've got formal hearings coming up on the $4.2 billion merger between NextEra and Hawaiian Electric. It's not really a merger. They call it a merger, but it's a takeover by the Florida Corporation. And there's been a lot of opposition to that. And a lot of people have shown up at the first sessions, and I hope that you will show up at one that's in your neighborhood or in your community. And if you want to schedule, if you don't have it, call either the PUC or call my Senate office, and we'll be glad to share that with you. Well, also, we've got the rail. When haven't we had the rail? The train to nowhere, which, as you know, I took a very strong position on in opposition to, and was one of the original 8 plaintiffs against the city. Everything we said then has come true and more. It's gotten worse and worse. Remember when Mayor Caldwell said, on time, on budget? Ha! We don't have to worry about that anymore because they've never been on time. They're certainly not on budget. Do you remember that this project started out as a $3 billion rail project that was going to go from Kapolei to the University of Hawaii? Then we dropped the University of Hawaii and it became a $5.7 billion project. Now we're up to $6 or $7 billion. They're talking about cutting back, maybe ending the rail at Middle Street or at the airport. They're not going to be able to finish it. And meanwhile, Mayor Caldwell and other members of the city council are begging for more money, more taxes, more real property assessments against you. Why? Because this was never a sound economic program in the first place. Actually, it was never an economic program. It was never a transportation program. It was always about development, transit-oriented development, TODs, and the fact that we're going to stack everybody in vertical buildings right along the rail line. They're going to walk down from the 3rd floor, get on the train to nowhere, and hope that they want to go shopping at Nordstrom's or somewhere like that, because it's not going to go anywhere where people have to go. Anyway, the problems with the cost, the overruns, construction, eminent domain, that's just part of the tip of the iceberg, actually, because another issue that the plaintiffs in the case 3 years ago brought up, where's the power going to come from for this train? It runs on electricity. Remember, it doesn't have any person to guide the train and no security on the train, so it's going to be great for the homeless. But where's the electricity going to come from? We're already short in capacity, and they've said that the tremendous amount of electricity that's required for this project, Hawaiian Electric doesn't have. Then they brought up the issue of, well, the tracks have to be 50 feet away from where the power source is, and nobody thought about talking about that first, and all of the underground realignments that has to be made, all the things that have to be done. This project has been a boondoggle from the beginning, but we've got to stop it. Even though we've spent a lot of money already, it's the old saw about not throwing good money after bad. As much as we wasted, that's gone. But you don't want to waste billions of dollars more. It's the most expensive rail project in the country per square mile. And remember, we were only talking about 20 miles. So we'll follow that. But I wish we could take that vote over again. Did you vote for the rail the first time around? Did you believe some of the propaganda? It's not true. None of it ever was. And none of it has shown to be something that we can afford or something that's going to alleviate traffic. It's going to make traffic worse. And the folks, poor folks right now, out in the Pearl City Aiea area, they're gone crazy because of the disruptions in traffic and all of the things that have happened. So we will continue to follow that. Another issue that you heard about first on this program several years ago, the so-called Hawaii Health Exchange or the Health Connector, the facilitating entity that was going to help us all attain the Obamacare Affordable Care Act. Remember when the president told us you're going to be able to keep your doctor? Wrong. You're going to be able to keep your health plan? Wrong. You're going to be able to have probably a $2,500 per family saving per year? Wrong. 3 strikes and you should be out. Well, guess what? The Hawaii Health Connector is out, but it leaves in its wake $300 million that was spent. And nobody knows exactly why and where and how. It was spent partially on a website that still doesn't work. We already had 92 to 94% coverage of everybody in Hawaii on medical care that they could afford, and now we don't. We've dropped below 90%. And people, wait till you get your bill in January for your health care and find out that it's gone up 25 to 35%. So look, a lot of these things sound good, but we have to do a better job. We have to do a better job of asking questions, getting answers, and your elected officials have to be held accountable. It's our job. It's our job here to represent you and to do oversight and to ask the tough questions. And every time these agencies come in for more money, the legislature has been too willing to give away the money. Why? It's not our money, it's your money. And we give it away with impunity. We've got to stop giving away money. We've got to start getting answers to the questions and making sure that we put Hawaii back on the right track. As far as our economy, people say, oh, don't worry, everything is fine. Things are going well. We got more homeless than ever before. In fact, we lead the nation. We have more people on food stamps. In fact, we lead the nation. We have more people on welfare. In fact, we lead the nation on the dollar amount per capita people on welfare. What does that tell you? That's not a healthy economy. We are not diversifying. We may diversify by race or sexual orientation, but we don't diversify by economic justification, and that's what we need. More jobs, more investors, more opportunities. Our young people, they come out of college now or professional school, they've got a tremendous debt that they have to pay off, and they can't get a job. They can't do it. What's wrong? Think back 7 years. We have a national administration, we have a president that promised a lot of things and has not delivered. So we're going to be coming up on a major election year next January 2016, November. There's going to be a lot of candidates of both political parties making promises. You got to be more akamai this time. You got to hold them accountable. And for the people that have been in office, say, well, what have you done for me? What did you accomplish? And when you said the last time you were at my door asking for money and my vote, you said you were going to do this, what did you actually do? So that's what you got to do. And there's a couple of other issues besides the telescope issue. Oh my gosh! You know, the best telescope in the world. Other countries were fighting to get this telescope. We got it. It's a $1.4 billion clean energy, wonderful thing for science. And here's Hawaii, and the Hawaiian people were great astronomers and they were great navigators and discoverers. And now we have a band of people that protest and don't want it built and say that the land at Mauna Kea is sacred. Come on, give me a break. After 13 telescopes were already there, but our governor has not taken a strong position. And our state Hawaii Supreme Court has waffled back and forth and currently has a situation where we can't go forward on construction. What does this tell the rest of the world? What does this tell the rest of our country? If you make a contract with the state of Hawaii, will they honor it? And the question is doubtful. We should be getting a lot more investment. We should have a lot more economic opportunities in our community, but we don't, and that's one of the reasons. And that's your assignment, and that's your job for next year, okay? And by the way, for those of you that may be new to this program, why do we call this a better day? Well, let's see. The last governor referred to a new day, and we had Governor Lingle was talking about new beginnings, things like that. Every time you wake up, and thank God you wake up in the morning, it's a new day. You deserve a better day, and that's what we in the Senate minority are trying to do. That's why we ask a lot of questions. We provide alternatives, some of which never even get public hearings, but we keep trying, and we're representing you. But make sure that your representative, whoever he or she is, does the job and keeps the promises that they told you. Okay, look, everybody's talking about the homeless, they're talking about housing, they're talking about affordability, which is nothing new. they've been talking about affordability here since statehood. So I've got a special guest today, and we are going to talk with Julie Sparks, who I'm going to let you in on a secret. She's got so many things going for her. Realtor, lawyer. Well, Julie, tell us the rest. What's the 101 on Julie Sparks?
One-on-one on Julie Sparks. I've been in real estate for 10 years.
Yep.
I went to law school and graduated about a year and a half ago. I have not taken the bar yet, but I do have my law degree. And I did that just because there are so many facets and things to learn about real estate, and it's very interconnected with the law. So I thought I could bring more value to my clients by going to law school.
Oh, a real estate lawyer. Oh boy,
yeah,
that
hopefully.
makes me feel warm and cuddly all over. Yeah.
And then I'm married. I have a husband, Corey, 3 children.
He's a handsome bugger, isn't he?
He is. Yeah. He's a retired Marine,
yeah.
but he still works for the Department of the Navy. And 3 children. Brittany is here visiting from California right now with my grandson. Aaron is 21. He works at Kona Brewing Company. And Paige, 17, and she's at UH.
Model. She's a famous model, right? Yeah.
She is. She graduated early, and she's now at University of Hawaii. And they were born and raised here.
Terrific. Well, 2 other things. You work for the Senate minority part-time in our research and legal department, and we're very grateful for that. And you neglected to say that last year you were Hawaii's Mother of the Year.
Yes.
That was terrific. That was quite an experience,
to say
right?
That was very humbling. I don't think anyone ever feels that they deserve a title Mother of the Year, because we all think of ourselves as imperfect, but it was a great honor.
Well, you represented the state well, and I was fortunate enough to be at the ceremony when you got the award statewide. And you deserved it, and you earned it.
Thank you.
Look, let's talk about some of the issues, though, that you're familiar with and that everybody is talking about. And we'll start off with the homeless situation and affordable housing. As I mentioned, a few minutes ago, they've been talking about affordable housing for decades now. What does it mean to you?
Well, I tried to look up the definition of what affordable housing is in Honolulu. There's really not a number on it. Most states like to keep it to a certain percentage of a family's income. And in Hawaii, we're way higher than the national average is what we spend on rent. So I think affordable housing here, it's already higher. I think our problem that we have in Hawaii is the cost of living is so high that people don't have reserves. So if something goes wrong in their lives, they can't make a mortgage or a rent payment.
I don't know how young people in this community can work and save for even a down payment or anything else, because it seems that the disparity in the cost of housing, what is our average single family house now on
$720 is the median.
$720,000 the median. How can you do that as a young person? And yet we hear government pontificating all the time. Well, let's do this, let's do that. I wanted to have the concession to sell tents, though, because that's been going very well for the homeless and all that, right? We've had all the conversation about the city and the state and the homeless problem, which continues to get worse. They sweep people out. They go from one block, they go over to the next block. But then the mayor and the city came up with proposals like housing first and like the ADUs. You want to comment on that and what you think about it?
I think housing first is worth a try. What they're trying to do is get landlords on board to rent to homeless people. The state will provide vouchers for the rent.
Yeah.
I think the problem is going to be that we don't have a lot of vacant rentals right now. So if there are landlords willing to do that, it's not going to take up much of the homeless population. It's been tried in other states, and they've had more success with that than the traditional putting them into shelters. Shelters require you to be sober for a certain amount of time, go to treatment, and you have to do that before you get housing.
Linda Lingle was the first governor that really did something about the homeless when it was a smaller and more manageable position, and she started that Next Step shelter in Kakako, and I remember I, like many other people, volunteered to help, particularly the kids, trying to help the kids. But we learned very quickly that there were people, they would not go into a shelter because of those rules, just what you're talking about. They didn't want to do that. They didn't want to give up their alcohol or their drugs or other things. They didn't want to be on a time limit, and that's part of the problem today. I saw a report, though, the other day that said that in the next 10 years, Hawaii's going to need a minimum of 66,000 housing units. We going to get that many?
No.
Why not?
We're not going to get that many. Land, cost of land back in the 70s, they passed a bunch of land use regulations.
Yeah.
Those have been layer upon layer of barriers to getting developments approved and started quickly. I think 10 years is about the average from the idea and the plans on the paper until breaking
isn't that
ground.
Incredible? Isn't
Yeah.
that incredible?
So we're always going to be behind because of that, unless we could change some of the laws to streamline those things, for maybe give the developers that are interested in doing the more affordable housing streamlining somehow. There's got to be something we can do with that.
What do you see as the government barriers and the problems? Or if you, Julie Sparks, were in charge, what would you do?
That is a tough question. I think one of the barriers is, well, look at just the developments around the rail out in Eva. All of the hearings, and how many years has that been talked about?
Since 2005.
Yeah. And I mean, something like that is supposed to be more workforce housing. So a development like that will help the problem, but it's taken this long, and it's still, I don't think they're selling them yet. Maybe just about to start. So what I would do is, if you're going to build affordable housing, I'm going to make that process, cut it in thirds, 2 years, 1 year. There's got to be something you can do.
How do you do that? I've heard other people say that.
Yeah.
The problem is with the realities and the bureaucracy, everything here takes longer. I mean, we had a restroom that went down over in, by Guadalupe Bay, right? And it was down for 4 years. 4 years for a restroom to fix that, connected to the city sewer and all of that. And people get used to that. And it's amazing. They get used to the cost overruns. They get used to things taking forever or not being done at all. And so when we talk about, oh, this is an emergency, homeless is an emergency, and then we're looking, as you say, I mean, 2 years, 6 years, 10 years down the road. But I want to get back to this housing first situation, because the predominant theory is, okay, if we get these people off the street and get them into housing, then we'll alleviate a lot of the problems. But a lot of these people, first of all, they don't want to go into the housing, just like they don't want to go into the shelters if there's any kind of requirements or rules. Secondly, the taxpayers are asking, wait a minute, I'm having trouble paying for my own house, my kids can't do it, and now you're asking me as a taxpayer to pay for another group of people, which, we already give them health care, we give them welfare benefits, we're giving them a lot of things. Now, what my position's always been, you can't look at the homeless and talk about them as one group.
Right.
You've got veterans, and for me, that's where the priority would go first. You got veterans, you got people with mental or physical problems, you've got people that have other kinds of problems, and then you've got people that just love to be outside. You got people that love to rob other people. You got people that have set up businesses in the tent camps, right?
Yeah.
And have their plasma TVs with their generators going, and that's the lifestyle for them. Except that we continue to support that lifestyle anyway through subsidies and welfare and health care. And it's good that we have so many social agencies in Hawaii that are willing to do that. But eventually, the social agencies get their money from the taxpayers as well. The legislature gives that, so it's a growing amount. That's why I think there was such blowback last month when Governor Ige came out with his statement, hey, Syrian rebels, hey, como mai, we welcome you in Hawaii. And everybody saying, what? Wait a minute. We're not taking care of local people. We can't take care of the homeless. We can't take care of the COFA migrants from Micronesia. Where is the money, plus the rail, plus other things, where's the money going to come from? And nobody's answered that question. I mean, it's nice to be compassionate, but God, you got to have common sense, right? And I guess the whole idea of tough love has gone down by the wayside, because now people have developed this entitlement ideology from the millennial population to other people as well. And we have been more than generous as a community. I think we are a compassionate community. We always try to help people no matter what. But I think, quite honestly, in many cases, we're being taken for suckers.
Yes.
And we are being compelled to support other people's habits and lifestyle. And our mayor, when he's not hawking for the train, he wants more real property tax increases, again, to subsidize other people. So that's one of the problems. What about these ADUs? What are ADUs, and how does that play into it?
The ADUs are additional dwelling units. The city passed an ordinance to allow them on your property now. But,
Yeah.
and they're doing that because they hope that you'll build one, rent it out, and
I thought
that's
I was going to have
going
an old
to...
Matson container on my lawn, no?
No, there are requirements. You still have to meet all of the... You have to have your property assessed to see if you have the sewer capacity, water capacity.
Yeah.
The thing I don't like about it is that they're requiring you to add additional parking for your dwelling unit.
Yeah, for the homeless. I think it's great.
So
yeah.
let's say you're on a lot and you have enough square footage, you have the sewer capacity and water capacity, but there is just absolutely no space. You're on a slope. There's no way to put in an additional parking.
Mm-hmm.
That means you can't build one.
Yeah.
So I think
And
something
look,
needs to be changed.
From a practical matter, what share or what significance would these ADUs actually be when you get right down to it?
I think it's going to be very insignificant. People will have to have the money to build one,
Yep.
or enough equity to pull out of their house to build one. They'll have to go through all of the assessment of their property to make sure they can build it and get approvals.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen overnight. So it's going to be a really limited number that's going to provide.
Okay, so we've gone over these things,
Mm-hmm.
and we both agree that they take too long, and they're going to continue to take too long, but I'm putting the bug back on you. What would you do, or what do you think should be done? You said, okay, move up the permit process, the speed in which we can do things. And other places do that. I mean, this is not rocket science, right? I mean, we could do it, but we don't have the political will in order to do it, or we don't have the imagination. I mean, people years ago, they suggested trailers or trailer parks, which have a bad name, and yet it's housing.
Right.
And we have land, not here on Oahu necessarily, but you do on the Big Island, for example, or other places. And you can do different things if, in fact, it's an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
What's an emergency is our sewers, which are breaking down at a regular rate, our water, which breaks down one water leak minimum per day.
Yeah.
Per day. And all of the infrastructure, we don't even talk about our roads and everything else. We are billions of dollars in the hole. And as I mentioned earlier also, we are not doing the economic things, and yet the thing that seems to prevail in Hawaii by the majority leaders is tax and spend and go more into debt. And this idea of taxing more people, higher real property rates, as we know, in 49 states, the real property taxes are used locally for education. Not in Hawaii. Education is a state function. But in addition to wanting to raise the taxes, our mayor and others have demagogued about investors. If we just keep those investors out of Hawaii, we'd be okay. I know you have strong thoughts about that.
Keeping the investors out of Hawaii would be bad for our economy, actually.
Why?
We have investors that they buy so much of our property and provide the rentals for people. And that's one of the areas where you can still come to Hawaii and make a decent return on your investment. We don't need to take that away. One of the things that I had an idea on to do to encourage more investors to come in is if they want to rent to homeless person, maybe they can get an exemption from the HARPTA tax when they decide to sell. That would be one idea.
Yeah, nobody's talked about that before.
I feel that the Housing First is going to have a challenge getting landlords on board. They had a big summit about that yesterday. But the bottom line is, why is a landlord going to be motivated to rent to a homeless person? You're a landlord because that's your business. You're trying to earn a living that way.
Talk to the landlords that are involved with Section 8 housing, right?
Right.
And it's one thing if the government is paying for the first month or for first 6 months. What happens after that? And what happens with the utilities? And what happens if there are problems with insurance or liability?
Damages.
Damages, right.
I believe that I read in Housing First that they are willing to set aside some money to cover the damages, but that's really our tax dollars.
It's our money, yeah. We're setting aside even more of our money, right?
Right, to cover that too. So I think we need to sweeten the deal. If they really want landlords on board with this, you're going to have to sweeten the deal somehow, because there is no incentive. It's hard enough to find people to take Section 8.
Well, what about if we kick out the military from Hawaii? Wouldn't we have all that military housing we could use? I've heard some of my colleagues in this very building say, yeah, that would be great. We could put all the poor people in the military housing. What about that?
If we kick out all the military, think of how many jobs we'll lose.
Yeah, but we're
overall.
talking about housing. We don't care about jobs.
Well, it's all related.
Oh, it
it's
is?
all
Okay.
related.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another problem, is our problem started way back when, in the 70s, when all the layers and layers of regulations were added. Also, the cost of living here, which, as you've always talked about, Jones Act. If we could repeal part of the Jones
Yeah,
Act, that would keep costs down.
It's really funny because Hawaii News Now last month was doing a great series on the price of paradise and all that. And it was really good, except that they had some so-called economists at the beginning of the series saying, oh, no, shipping adds nothing to it and all that. Well, this was a guy that was being paid by the shipping interests and by special interests and all that. Of course shipping is a major factor. Of course the Jones Act reform would be good. There have been good ideas that have been presented, but because of the monopoly kind of politics here, we don't do it. Well, look, you and I just scratched the surface. I told you it was going to go by quickly, right?
You did.
But we're going to have a whole legislative session starting January 20th, and we're going to talk about these and other issues. So if you have any comments or you have any thoughts, by all means, contact my office. We'll pass some of these things on to Julie, and we'll address them. Because Hawaii is worth it. But the good news is we can solve these problems. All these problems have been man-made, made by government. We can do it. We just haven't done it. We haven't used the creativity and the imagination. So Julie Sparks, appreciate you being on with us. Look forward to you working with the Senate minority again
I do
during
too.
the session. And I don't know, it still scares me, a realtor and a lawyer. Anyway, if you have any comments about today's program or anything else that you need, please contact us. Otherwise, you have the merriest of Christmases and happiest of New Year's. And we'll talk to you again soon. Aloha, and have a better day.